Hi, welcome. I'm Maria from Read Fine Books, and today we are talking Two Books Tag. This is a tag originally created by Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot, and if you don't know her channel, it is just amazing. Go there, watch her reviews, they are wonderful. I've been tagged to do this by Marisa. I love her channel, Marisa Bailey, where she has a wonderful series, Friday Philosophy, that is very, very interesting. So go to her channel as well. Let's dive into the questions now. Two books you recently read. I recently read The Bread the Devil Need or Ned. This book is a story of abuse, sadly. The protagonist, Alethea Lopez, is a 40-year-old woman who finds herself in an abusive relationship. She, however, doesn't seem able to let it go. She continuously finds justifications for the abuse and seems content to be in that relationship. Her opinion changes when she sees a woman murdered by her abusive husband. So the story evolves from her being content in bad relationships to her trying to get out. This story will make you understand how and why a person would choose to remain in a bad relationship, as well as her state of mind during the relationship and after. So you feel all the emotions: sadness, empathy, loneliness, powerlessness. These things will make you love the book. And it is also unique because it is written in a Trinidadian accent or dialect. um, it is in English, but you will have a perhaps difficult time to understand it at first. It certainly made a difficult time for me as a non-native English reader. If I got used to it, you can too. But it is a part of what makes it memorable. So I'm sure you'll find value in this book as well. I also recently read Jane Eyre. This was our September group read on my Discord channel, and I have yet to make my full review on it. So I'll talk about it here. Jane Eyre impacted me a lot. It is a story about an orphan girl who works very hard and becomes a governess. She falls in love with the person she works for, and the story doesn't work out in her favor. She has to leave her employment and find a new way of living. The troubles she goes into are fortifying her. She's a very strong character because she doesn't let go of her principles, even if that would make her life a lot better. So, yes, she always chooses the difficult path and has the courage to do anything. I admired her a lot and it was very, very inspiring. I really urge you to read this book. I really urge you to read this book. The second question on this tag is two books that are nostalgic to you. The first one is a series actually, Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. I recently read Dracula and it really made me nostalgic about the beautiful vampires there. Lestat and Louis and Claudia, they were just perfect vampires. They were full characters with great stories behind them, and this series was my first series with vampires, and it was just amazing. It is so well written. It actually makes you wonder a lot about good and evil. Um, it is one of those series which is actually deeper than it seems, which actually makes you think a lot about life. So, yeah, The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice is a must read, in my opinion. I read it in high school. I loved it then. I still love it now. Another book that I am very nostalgic about is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I read this book when it first came out, and it was such an immersive story, brilliant writing. It actually made you think you are there in Italy. The atmosphere in Italy is so authentic. So yeah, there are four books, and I never wanted them to finish. Um, I wanted to know more and more about the lives of the characters there. Um, the friendship of the two protagonists evolves, and it is so real. In real life, friendship evolves. If you had a friend as a little child, um, you know friendship evolves. This friendship seems so real to me, as did the characters, and I just loved the book. And I'm nostalgic about it because I know that the movie came out recently, or it's a series. I don't know, but it really made me think about this book, and I how I wanted to read it again, or read it again for the first time. I'm I'm sad that is not possible. Next question. Two books that you read for school that you would like to read again. So, this question I had to research in advance because I want to talk about two books that you can find as well. And I read a lot in high school, and yes, these are two books that are actually translated and have had an impact for me in high school. I loved them back then, and I would definitely read them again now. The first one is The Forest of the Hanged by Liviu Revrenu. The Forest of the Hanged is a complicated story inspired by the author's brother who went into the First World War and went through something similar as the protagonist in the book. Why is this story so complicated? It's because of Romania's history. During the First World War, Romania was divided. Part of the country belonged to the Austro Hungarian Empire, and the First World War made Romania turn against itself. Transylvania actually officially fought against Romania. So Transylvania was always populated by Romanians. Under the Austro-Hungarian occupation, going into war, they had to enroll in the Austro-Hungarian army. That means going into war, they actually fought against Romanians. So a lot of them deserted. They just couldn't do it. It was a very difficult thing to ask of someone, and I have no idea how they thought it possible, how they thought they could ask something like that of a person, but they did. It's a terrible story, and this novel follows the thoughts of a Romanian in that situation. So, yes, it is a powerful book which demands of us to think precisely, who are we fighting? Whose war is this? Why are we fighting? So, yes, terrible, terrible story. And as I said, a lot of Romanians actually lived through that drama during the First World War. The second book I read in high school and I would actually love to read again is My Tray by Mircea Eliade. I loved this author so much. I read every piece of fiction he wrote because I loved his writing and the subjects he wrote about. Not a lot of it is translated, but this book is. And it is the story of a young man who goes to India to research. It is actually semi biographical. The story of a young scholar who goes to India for research and lives in the house of his Indian colleague. He falls in love with his daughter, Maitrey, and the book is mostly the love story between them. This love story is very surreal, and the book is so atmospheric. It makes India sound so magical, and everything that happens seems surreal. Um, I loved the story, and I was saddened it wasn't completely true. Maitrey actually wrote her own book years after, stating that the book Mircea Eliade wrote was dishonoring her, and she wrote about their love as well in kind of different terms, but of course this was a work of fiction, and I think it should be treated this way, even though he definitely should have changed Maitreyi's name. For me, reading it, it didn't seem at all dishonorable, because I have a Western mentality, of course. We see things differently than Indians do, and that is a shame. That is a shame that their story went that way. In my opinion, the fact remains it is a wonderful book, and you should read that and then read Maitreyi's book as well. Uh, it is very telling of how two people live the same thing differently. And reading Maitreyi's book, it made me relive moments from the first book as well. I haven't studied Maitreyi's book at school, only Maitreyi, but you should definitely read both if you can. The next question: the books you have wanted to read. I wanted to read The Vanishing Half. This is by Brit Bennett. It's on my TBR. I will definitely read it. This is a multiple strands and generations family story. Um, it spans for 40 years, I think, and it does involve a lot of the impact race has upon a family. This is what I know from reviews I've seen here on Booktube. And it is the only thing that made me interested in this book. The next one I'd love to read is The Fountains of Silence. This is by Ruta Sepetis, and I read I Must Betray You. It was wonderful. This is what made me think I really, really want to read The Fountains of Silence. I'm sure it will be awesome. The next question is two hyped books I will probably read, and that is It Started With Us by Colleen Hoover. It doesn't get more hype than that. I have high hopes for this book. I really, really hope it won't let me down. I love Colleen Hoover's books, and I read It Ends With Us. I am part of the people who wanted it to continue. So, yes, this is a welcomed book. I can't wait to read it. And the next one is also very hyped, and I have watched here lots of reviews about it. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Everyone raves about how this book is wonderful, and I really have to know for myself. I have it on my Kindle. I haven't gotten around to it. I will definitely read it. And that's it. Thank you for this tag, Marisa. And now I'm tagging MJ from Reading This Life. By the way, congrats, MJ. She has just reached 1,000 subscribers. That is wonderful. I also tag Nicole from Dusty Book Sniffers. Flossie from the Grape Jelly Library, and Jolene from Bookworm Adventure Girl. I hope you'll have fun with this tag. I certainly loved it. I'm Maria from Read Fine Books. Thank you so much for watching.